Hello everyone, welcome to our first CAD tutorial. This presentation was created by FTC Team 24500 LITBOT, and today I'm really excited to guide you through learning CAD, using it, and sharing some helpful tips to get you started. And in this lesson, we'll talk about why is CAD so important. Now here you can see a modern CAD workspace. But firstly, let's talk about what is CAD. Well, CAD stands for computer-aided design. It helps people create designs on a computer instead of drawing them by hand. And here we can see a hand drawing and a CAD drawing. Now let's talk about some history of CAD. So the first CAD software was created in the early 1960s. Early versions were used only in the aerospace and automotive industries. And before CAD and computers existed, all designs were hand-drawn, which took a lot of time. Now let's talk about where is CAD used. Well, CAD is used in designing cars and planes, making toys and gadgets, creating buildings and houses, and even designing clothes and shoes. And actually, everything we see and use is most likely created by CAD. And a fun fact, many animated movies and video games also use CAD to create some cool characters and worlds. So let's jump into CADing. Welcome everyone to the second lesson of CADing. Today we'll talk about account setup and making our first document. So a very important step before starting CAD is to have a mouse, because without a mouse it will be very hard for you to learn CADing. So make sure you have one. And we will be using a CAD software called Onshape. Now, Onshape is a 3D CAD platform that lets you design, edit, and collaborate on projects from any device with internet access. And it's very beginner friendly, so that's why we will be using it today. And Onshape is also widely used for product design and engineering. So firstly, we will go to onshape.com and we'll click sign up now in the top right corner. Here we can see it with the red arrow. We'll enter in our first name, last name, and email address and click next. We will then go to education and click next also. Now we want to click student from the options and we'll fill out our personal information. And after that's done, we'll need to enter our school details, including the school name, URL, graduation year. So here I've entered my school, you will enter your schools. And lastly, we'll just verify your email, and we'll also enter in our password in that email. And once that's verified, we will go back to onshape.com and we will click, it's gonna say either sign in or open Onshape to log in. So welcome everyone to the third CADing lesson. Today we'll learn about how to create folders and documents, add documents to folders, and also share files with other people. So here's some good to know terminology. We already know what CAD is. The rest you can pause the video and read them. I'm not going to bore you with them. So once we log in into Onshape, here we can see this bar. Now there are some sections like owned by me, which shows files that you own. Then shared by me just shows files that other people are sharing with you. Themes show folders and files that a lot of people have access to, and public just shows all files that shared by all users. So let's start off by creating a document. So what are documents? So documents are files in which you create and store CAD designs. And right now, if we click the blue create button at the top left corner, and then this menu pops up, we'll click document. This menu will pop up and we'll enter in our document name as lesson 1. Also, here you can see a document location. This just shows folders in which you can add your files, and we'll create a folder later. So just enter your document name and then click create. So here we go. You will load into this menu. Now here's where all the magic happens. And in this file, you'll be working on all your CAD designs and projects. This is where all the design work, edits, and collaborations will take place. And here we can see our workplace. So let's firstly learn how to share files with other people. Now, if we click the share button in the top right of the screen, on the second screen, which will pop up, you can enter in emails and names to give people permission. You can choose either they can edit or view the files, and by selecting public here, you can make the files visible to every Onshape user. And to exit the file or project, we can just click this Onshape icon. So now let's create a folder. We'll do the same as we created a document. We will click the blue create button, but we'll click folder. And To create the folder, it's really the same as the documents. We'll click this option and we'll change the folder name to anything we want, and the folder location works the same as document locations. So we'll enter in our name and then create. And you can access all files and folders in the Owned by Me tab. So let's click that. So now let's move our file into our folder. So if we click our document and we hold it and then drag it into the folder, we will be able to move the document into the folder. And if we click the folder, we will see the document in the folder. Welcome everyone to the fourth Onshape lesson, and today we're gonna finally learn how to make sketches and then turning them into 3D objects. So let's go ahead and click the sketch button, which lets us enter sketch mode. And in sketch mode, we can finally sketch our objects, which then we can turn into 3D objects. And when we click the sketch mode, we'll be prompted to select a sketch plane. Now, what is a sketch plane? So a sketch plane, you can see it as a flat surface where you can draw your designs. For example, it's like choosing the paper for your sketch. And you need to select a sketch plane because it shows the starting point and orientation for creating your 2D drawings. It may sound complicated, but you're gonna understand it well later. So right now, we're gonna select the top part of our document right here, and we're gonna select that as our sketch plane. And to select it, we're just gonna click the cube right here. Okay, so now accessing the sketch. So you've now created your sketch, and when you're gonna want to access it later, all of your sketches will be listed here, which you will make right here. Now, finally, let's move on to sketch tools. Now, as you can see, there are a lot and lots and lots and lots of various sketching tools. But really, the 99% of tools you're gonna use are these ones. And the first tool which we're gonna learn is the line tool. And line tools are pretty self-explanatory. They just allow us to create lines. And if we go ahead, click on our sketch, click the line tool, then click, drag, and then click again, you will be able to create a line. And as you can see, I've created quite a lot of lines here. And let's see, if you don't like a line that you created, you can always click the escape key to abort it. So moving on, we have our circle tool. So circle tools allows us to create and draw circles, and that's pretty much it. You can go ahead and click the circle tool here, and then click and drag, and it allows us to create circles. Next, the rectangle tool. Rectangle tools are also right here, and if we click, drag, and then click again, we'll be able to create our rectangles. And if you don't like a rectangle that you've created, or a circle, or a line, you can always click Ctrl Z. Okay, so now moving on into our measuring tool. So what does the measuring tool do is it lets us specify how long should a line be. And if we go ahead into our sketch tools and we click the dimension tool right here, what it allows us to do is to say how long should this be. So for example, I've clicked on the line and then specified that I want this line to be 60 millimeters and this line to be, for example, 40 millimeters. So yeah, and also pressing the letter M also lets you select the tool, so it's kind of a shortcut. If we click on the rectangle, then select the extrude button, and here you can see some menus. I'm not going to bore you with them, but as long as you've clicked on your rectangle and click the done button, you'll be able to create an actual 3D object. And also in this menu, you can specify how long should your 3D object be. And yeah, and now also in the extrude menu, maybe we want to not create but to remove, and we're going to use this later, but the remove feature just allows us to select one part of the sketch and then remove every area of it, and it's just a feature of the extrude function. So yeah, and finally, I have a challenge for all of you. So use what you've learned and then create this object. The size doesn't really matter as long as you have this type of shape. So hello everyone. Today we're gonna jump into a bit more extended part of the sketching in 3D objects. And here you can see our project for this lesson. We should be able to do this after this lesson. So what we're going to learn is the extrude add feature using some references, equal function, construction, blah, blah, blah. And first of all, like we've learned from the previous lesson, if we go ahead and click our extrude button, we learned that we can make sketches into 3D objects. But if we want to, for example, combine one 3D object with another, we need to use the add function. So right here, we have a sketch and we have a 3D object. If we click the sketch and click the add button, it lets us combine these two objects, two separate objects, into one. And using the new function, the new button will separate these two and they will be different entities. Okay, so let's move on into some more challenging parts. So we will now learn how to use references. And what I'll do is I'll make a center point rectangle right here. And let's say I want to make a line going from here straightly into, for example, here. So as you can see, Onshape is already recognizing that I want to use this point right here as a reference. And as you can see, if we go to the line right here, you can see this dotted line. And the dotted line shows that Onshape understands that you want to use this line as a reference. So for example, I want to click this edge right here. And let's do this. And now I want it to go into the depth to go to this line right here. So if we go ahead, go straight, 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 as you can see, it also understands that maybe I want to use the center point as a reference. So right here, also you can see this point, the dotted line again shows that it's using the center point as the reference. Okay, so moving on, we'll go ahead and learn the equal function. Now, what the equal function does, it's really simple. So, for example, I'll click a circle right here, I'll make one, and I want this circle to be 50 millimeters of diameter. And let's see, I'm gonna create another circle, but I want this circle to be the same size as this one. So what I'll do is I'll use the equal function right here, and I'm gonna click this part and then this part. And what will happen is these two will become the same size. And if I will go ahead and change the 50 millimeters of diameter to, let's say, 10, both of them will change. And we can do this to many, many objects. Okay, so now some deeper usage of extrude. So we're gonna learn the starting offset. So if you go ahead to our extrude and we're gonna click the starting offset, and what it does is from an edge already existing sketch, and if we click the starting offset, what it does is that from the edge it will count to 50 millimeters and only then make another one of those sketches. So right here we click 50 millimeters and these two will be 50 millimeters apart. Okay, so now moving on into construction. So construction lines are just lines that are gonna help you make sketches. They're lines that are non-printing lines and just used to help define geometry, align elements without facing the final design. And for example, if I go to my sketch and I'll create two center point rectangles right here, and I use the line, I click the line and I click the construction function, what it does is it creates a construction line. And to better represent what it actually does is I'll create a cube. And in practice, this cube should be able to show up and let me create a sketch of it. However, because this is a construction lines, a rectangle made of construction lines, it doesn't let me click on them. It just doesn't recognize them as actual lines. So now moving on into our three-point arc. So the three-point arcs in Onshape creates an arc specified by 3 points. So the starting point, the ending point, and the point on the arc itself. So here I've clicked the 2 points on the line, and here I can specify how big should the arc be. And now moving on to our fillet. So once we've created a object, we can now smoothen out the corners, round them off by using the fillet function. And right here is the fillet function. These functions are not in the sketch, rather they are in the default menu. And if we click this fillet right here button and click an edge, it will let us round them off. And then we can also click the radius, which we want to change. So making them 10 will make them way more rounder than, let's say, 2 millimeters. So now let's move into a problem you may encounter. So let's say you've created a extrude and then you want to create a second extrude. And what will happen is that previous sketches that you've created will be hidden. And this is done by default in Onshape. And if let's say, want to create a circle object right here, it won't show up unless you unhide the sketch. So right here, I've unhidden the sketch, and it lets us actually create and click and create the object. And now for some practice, you have to create this mug by these dimensions. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be relatively the same size.